Oh, we're having such a good conversation. Yeah. Watch it. You see my mouth moving is her voice. Really does.
Okay, if you don't mind. Start.
These guys, my other country, but they can't do.
So I welcome you tonight. Obviously, you saw our newsletter that we sent out in the mail recently. We're going to be doing a presentation on stormwater management program. Who are you?
Right there.
Okay. So, I'm Brett Wagner, I'm the executive director for the Borough of Conshohocken, which we're sewer, now we're in storm. Which name? Brett Wagner. Thank you. I did that. So we're keeping it very informal. We have Tyler is our consultant, HRD, that will be presenting a slideshow. So what we're going to do is you go through the presentation and then we're going to open up with questions and answers. If you have any questions that you want us to attend and we can't answer at this meeting, we will have a sheet signed and we'll get back to you reports. So again, I'm Brett Wagner, Tyler Erb, and Morgan is part of the authority as well. You will be the point source contact if you're welcome to hand out cards. And if you have any further questions, they will go directly to him. And then we also have another person with HRG, which.
Rich over. What's HRG stand? Herbert Forward. I saw that there, but it was nice that you stopped with all the acronyms. HRG. They're engineers. Yes.
So again, there's a presentation and a presentation is completed, we will open up for questions at that stage.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. As Brett said, my name is Tyler, and I'm with HRG. I do want to point out here quickly with the acronyms. I tend to talk in acronyms a lot. I do my best when giving these presentations to not use those acronyms. But if I slip up and am using acronyms that you don't know or don't understand, please let me know, and I will elaborate on what that means. So we're going to be discussing the stormwater program for the Borough of Conshohocken Authority. Brief overview here of our agenda. Just going to talk about the stormwater program as a whole, overview of what that program looks like, what the requirements are, regulatory wise, as well as what kind of situation we're dealing with within the Borough of Conshohocken. Talk about the program budget, the funding source for the program, credits and appeals, what's next, and then we'll have a Q&A session. Now, I do want to also announce at this time that what we are discussing has not been formally approved or adopted at this point, so that it is subject to change. This is what the intended implementation will look like, but there are some things within this presentation that may be adjusted. So I do want to clarify that we have not formally adopted this, so everything does have an asterisk next to it. So as far as the stormwater program overall, give me 1 second. I need to move my pictures around here. Okay. So what is stormwater? So stormwater is really anything that falls from the sky and is considered precipitation, right? So snow, ice, rain, anything of that nature would be considered stormwater. We really care about stormwater because it's potential to carry pollutants. So there's three main pollutants that we're concerned with: sediment, nitrogen, and phosphorus. There's other pollutants as well, but the reason that we're focused on those three pollutants in particular is because of what's called the MS4 program, which I will elaborate on in a later slide. Thank you. MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Stormwater Sewer System. So M4S's, MS4. Thank you for keeping me honest. So stormwater is transported through storm sewers and surface conveyance into our local waterways. And what I mean by that is an inlet connects to a pipe. That pipe then is drained to, a creek or a stream. It's untreated. Sanitary as a toilet's flush, it goes through the same, not the same infrastructure, but similar infrastructure, and then it goes to a treatment facility. Stormwater does not go to any treatment facility. It is just through the pipes, left untreated, and then enters our local waterways. As far as surface conveyance, it's a similar situation. Curbing on the side of a road would be considered surface conveyance. Any sort of swale alongside of a road would be considered surface conveyance. Even when water is dispersed over a large area of land and allowed to flow over that area of land, it would be considered surface conveyance. We're really concerned with runoff from what's considered impervious surfaces. So impervious is really anything that will prevent the infiltration of water through the soil to allow it to go into the groundwater system. Anything that is really preventing that process from happening would be considered impervious area. So some examples of that would be a roof, a driveway, sidewalks, anything of that nature, a parking lot, that would all be considered impervious. There we go. So the MS4 program is the current iteration. And again, I will discuss that in a little bit more detail in the next slide. But how did we get to this point? So really, this goes back to the Chesapeake Bay Agreement in 1983. But even farther, it goes back to the Clean Water Act that was passed in 72. So it says Chesapeake Bay Agreement as the. We all right?
I didn't do it.
Yeah, but I don't think this guy,
I thought I did it.
it looks good on that screen, right?
Yes.
I couldn't see it well anyway.
Oh, you know what? I think it's the screensaver on. Scroll. Sorry, folks.
Can I ask you a question while you're waiting?
Sure.
When you think of rainwater that flows off your lawn on the sidewalk in the street, it then goes into the culvert. How does that culvert wind up at the sewer authority?
It doesn't end up at the treatment plant. It goes untreated to the local waterways. So whichever waterway it's connected to at the end point.
Be the Schuylkill. So how is it that our runoff that is going into the streets, into the gutters and into that, how is that going to be treated by the sewer authority, or why isn't the sewer authority getting our payment for this?
Sure. I will elaborate on that in a couple of slides. I promise you I will elaborate on that.
Thank you.
Sure. So, good to go, it looks like? Okay. So the Chesapeake Bay Agreement was passed in 83. That was an agreement between a handful of states that drain to the Chesapeake Bay. So that's a main driving factor for the MS4 program. Now, we aren't in the Chesapeake Bay drainage area here, but we're still required to meet the same regulatory statutes that MS4 communities within the Chesapeake Bay drainage area are required to meet. It's a statewide program. It's called that MS4 Municipal Separate Stormwater Sewer System Program that requires a 10% reduction in sediment, a 5% reduction in phosphorus, and a 3% reduction in nitrogen. And again, it's really going back to the Clean Water Act that was passed in 72. So these regulations have been around for quite some time. However, they have become substantially more restrictive and having a lot more requirements associated with them for municipalities to implement and meet these reductions. So our MS4 program consists of a series of MCMs, or minimum control measures, that we are required to meet. The first one is public education, and the second one is public outreach. I'm going to talk about those together because they really go hand in hand. So the public education is, educating the public on stormwater issues, concerns, how to be good stewards of water. Public outreach is giving the public the opportunity to be involved, whether it's through a volunteer event, providing comments on the pollutant reduction plan. I'm gonna keep talking about these things, if that's all right with you guys. So we're still good on the screen, so it should be recording everything. So giving the public the opportunity to provide input on ordinances and things of that nature. MCM3 is illicit discharge detection and elimination. So that is an illicit discharge would be anything that isn't stormwater entering the stormwater system. So an extreme example is I just changed the oil in my car. I dumped that into a stormwater inlet, and I'm not saying that I do this, and that's an extreme example, right? But those things are considered an illicit discharge. So anything that isn't stormwater entering that system would be an illicit discharge. MCM3 is the requirement of finding those illicit discharges as they're happening and resolving the situation that is causing that illicit discharge. In my example, it would be a stern talking to, maybe some fines, education of why you can't do that. That's, primarily illicit discharges are a lack of education of understanding that water is not going to the sewer treatment plant, right? Still shouldn't dump oil in your drains, in your home, but that, education factor is a main point for illicit discharge detection and elimination. We're going to hold all questions to the end, if that's okay.
Just remember leaching fields when we get to it.
Sure. So MCM4 then is construction site runoff controls. So that's any active construction sites, making sure that erosion and sediment controls are in place. All of those sediment and erosion controls are installed correctly. And really just making sure that anything that is having an active construction associated with it isn't causing an illicit discharge. MCM5 is post-construction stormwater management. So that's everything that is constructed to mitigate new construction as far as stormwater goes. So best management practices or BMPs that were constructed to reduce the impact of rate and volume for stormwater coming from this new impervious area, making sure that those continue to function and operate as they were intended to, and that they're being maintained. MCM6 is good housekeeping, and that's really the borough and authority, doing everything that they can to make sure that they are not increasing any illicit discharges, that they are, practicing what they preach, so to speak. So really that they're following all the same regulatory requirements that are being implemented through MCM 1 through 5. So recently we have these increased regulations associated with the MS4 program outside of the MCM requirements. So it's an unfunded federal mandate is the main thing here. We have those MCM requirements, but we have the pollutant reduction plan and projects that are required to be implemented. So that's to address that 10% reduction in sediment, the 5% in phosphorus, and 3% in nitrogen. We have to install BMPs, that best management practices, that address those concerns and reduce our overall loading as a borough to the 10% mark. So that would be done through something like a detention basin retrofit or installing a detention basin where we're allowing all the stormwater to pool, those pollutants of concern to settle out, and then it gets discharged. And the way that works is done in a variety of ways depending on what BMP is being installed, but it's really slowing the rate that the water is entering our local waterways. And in ensuring that the water that does enter the BMP has the ability to sit there for some time, so the sediment and everything can fall out, and it gets captured at that point rather than making its way to the local waterways. This is for the current permit term. Now, we've been in discussions with DEP, who are currently in discussions with the EPA on what the next permit term is going to require. And at this point, we don't know the specifics of it, but we do know that there are going to be additional requirements for our next permit round. Now, typically, the permits run for 5 years. There was a general permit extension for 2 years. That's unusual, but it's because they're still working out the details of what the requirements will be for the next permit. So this isn't something that's going to go away, is really the point I want to make there. You know, it's been around since 72, essentially, and has increased substantially from 72 until present, and will likely continue to increase at the same rate, potentially faster. And a lot of it has to do with the agreements that have been made by the states and the EPA to, you know, enforce this. I do want to point out here too that this little snippet that you see here as E is part of the permit. So that's actually pulled directly from the permit. And it says that the permittee shall develop and maintain adequate legal authorities and shall maintain adequate funding and staffing to implement this general permit, including the stormwater management program contained in Part C1 of this general permit.
For enlarging government.
Of course.
So the aspect of this is that you are not able to just say, we can't afford it. Part of the permit requirement is the ability, it is creating the ability to be able to meet all the aspects of the requirements associated with that permit. So I'm sorry, can we hold all questions until the end? I'm happy to have a discussion with you at the end of this. So we can't just say, we're not going to do it. We can't do it. We can't afford to do it. It's not an option. It would be a situation where we'd be out of compliance with our permit and would face legal challenges, would be hit with fines. It would impact our funding opportunities. It really is a significant situation to be out of compliance with the MS4 program and the associated permit. So in addition to the regulatory requirements, we discussed what challenges are facing the borough. Essentially, we have, you know, our polluted streams and increased flooding concerns, increased regulations. We have that PRP that needs to be implemented. This is a big one here, is our aging infrastructure. So we have about 11 miles of pipe, give or take. I'm sure that there's some pipe that has been in the ground for many, many years and has reached the end of its useful life. I know this to be true. I've looked at some of the pipes. If we continue to not address it, it's going to result in larger issues. It's the leaky roof situation, right? If you let a leaky roof continue to leak, eventually it's not a relatively easy fix. We have to replace the whole roof. So this is the big situation here of what is a cost factor that needs to be addressed. The pipes and everything also doesn't account for all of the curbing and all of the inlets and all of that other stormwater infrastructure that also needs to be addressed and maintained. The other challenges here that we found is, you know, the borough growth, more runoff and more infrastructure need, and more impervious area. And then the last challenge is funding, right? Not having the ability to fund the program as it needs to be funded, as it's required to be funded by our permit to address all of the permit regulatory concerns and make sure that we're in good standing with that, but also ensuring that the infrastructure and everything is maintained the way that it needs to be and should be. So in evaluating this, budget was developed, and I broke this out into two categories here. So we have operation and maintenance, and then we have capital improvements. So operation and maintenance is really covering all of the MS4 requirements, as well as maintaining our stormwater system. Now, what I mean by that is typical inlet replacements, typical pipe replacements, things of that nature. Then we have our capital improvement side of things, which is the larger scale projects. So that'll be things like the PRP projects. That'll be things like large scale infrastructure replacement, where we're not just replacing, a couple of blocks of pipe, we're replacing an entire run of stormwater pipe. Things that are large scale and significant cost factors. So those are being accounted for in our capital improvement side of things. So our annual budget comes out to $825,000. $595,000 of that is operation and maintenance. $230,000 would be associated with those capital improvements, and that would be an annual cost. So to cover those costs, it's proposed to use what's called an ERU fee structure for the stormwater utility implementation. So what I mean by ERU is ERU stands for equivalent residential unit. So a flight was done for the borough. We were able to map out all the impervious within the borough. And based on the land use codes associated with a property, determine what properties are considered to be single family residential. Now, those properties we determined to have an average of, it was about 1,400 square feet of impervious area. So we set that as our ERU amount. So all single family property owners will have an estimated monthly fee of $10 a month. Now, anybody who isn't a single family residential property will be assessed on a rate of $6.50 per 1,000 square feet of impervious area. So if you have 1,000 square feet of impervious and you're not a single family residential property, you would be billed $6.50. If you have 2,000, it would be $13, so on and so forth. And that would be rounded to the nearest 100 for billing purposes. So by funding this through a utility and setting it up in the fee structure that's proposed, we have the ability to provide credits. So again, this is our anticipated credit options. It may change what we're offering here, but this is what we're planning on offering. So we have our peak rate and volume control structural BMPs, or best management practices. So that is anything that is designed to reduce the rate and volume of stormwater. That can be quantified. That's the important factor there. We're able to quantify it. We will be able to reduce your rate accordingly based on the amount of impervious area that is draining to that best management practice. We have a rain barrel rebate that we're anticipating, which will be a one-time rebate for the installation of a rain barrel. And for those who don't know what a rain barrel is, essentially it is a container that you attach to a downspout. It captures water that you can then use to, water your garden or flowers around your house, or whatever you would need to use that water for. The education credit would be a credit for schools that are able to educate on stormwater related materials. As part of our MS4 program, we have that education requirement. So we're able to have reduced costs because we're able to say, okay, well, this entity is handling this education. And then the stormwater partnership credit. So this is more of an open-ended credit opportunity. And really it's intended to be that, because we don't want to say, just because we haven't thought about it, doesn't mean it's not a cost savings for the authority to the stormwater program. So this is, hey, let's have a conversation, talk about what idea you have, and determine if that's something that we can quantify and what that would look like. And, you know, let's sit at the table and have a conversation about it.
Our sewer authority does not get the money, have a separate entity for this.
The funds will be a separate fund for
Not handled by the sewer authority.
the money will be put into a separate fund that the authority has and will be only able to be used for stormwater related charges.
Do not trust them.
Okay.
Your education,
And let's let him finish. We want to hear.
I thought it was finished.
He's doing his presentation. But let's let him finish, please.
Thank you. So the credit and appeal process will really look like an application by the property owner. And I think it's important to note that the bills are being assessed per parcel. So it's not associated with what the sewer bill you're receiving is. You know, if you're receiving multiple sewer bills for a single parcel, it's a single stormwater charge associated with that parcel. So the application by the property owner with any sort of documentation that would be required, it varies depending on what credit you're applying for. That would then be reviewed by the authority. An O&M agreement would need to be put in place for certain best management practices, particularly the structural peak rate and volume control. We would need an O&M agreement for. A rain barrel, we don't need an O&M agreement. And then that credit would be applied to the next billing cycle. Now, depending on when we get the credit and when it gets reviewed, it might be, you know, the subsequent billing cycle. If that's, you know, if we get it late in the billing cycle, the bills are going out next week, you know, we weren't able to review it. It would be applied then to the subsequent after it was reviewed and approved. So what's next here? We're anticipating the first bills to be mailed out in April of 24. Where applicable, they will be attached to the sanitary bill. There may be situations where the bills are a standalone stormwater bill. And if it's something that you would like to have attached to an existing sanitary bill, we can discuss how to make that happen. And then the stormwater infrastructure assessment and improvement projects begin. So we're going to go out and find out, you know, where our biggest issues are, what those issues are outside of what we currently know, because there's a lot of unknowns still, and start those improvement projects. So at this point, I would welcome any questions. I don't know if we want to have everybody come up to the podium one by one, or what you're.
Yes, what we do is if you have a question, raise your hand and come up to the podium and we'll go around your. Welcome to go first.
Well, I think my name's
My name's Joy, and you said it's subject to change, but the money we're going to be starting getting the words out. We're going to be charged starting in April. So can this anticipated stormwater fee change since it's not etched in stone yet?
So there is potential for specifics to change from what was presented today, because it has not been formally adopted at this point. It is anticipated to be formally adopted later this month.
Okay.
I wouldn't expect any significant shifts.
Well, just because you said that it wasn't etched in stone,
Yeah.
it could change.
Yeah.
I'll let the question open. In the back of the letter, it talks about that there's 11 miles of pipe. Conshohocken Borough is only 1 square mile. How are we coming into 11 miles of pipe?
So it's 1 square mile, but we have a lot of streets that intersect. And all of the streets have inlets, all of the streets, at least a majority of the streets have inlets and infrastructure underneath them. So it's really, you really have to take a look at miles of roadway to get a comparable estimate to the infrastructure that's underneath that roadway.
Okay, and it talks about 689 inlets. If we already have the inlets that are already there,
Mhm.
and we're getting new pipes coming in and new inlets, how's the stormwater and how's the runoff gonna know which inlet to go into?
So we're not necessarily adding additional inlets. It's replacement of inlets that currently exist. Now, there are situations where we'll have to add additional inlets, and additional pipe. But the plan is to replace the pipe and inlets that are currently installed, to bring them up to a standard that, you know, isn't a dilapidated pipe, and ensure that it's functioning correctly. Now, in the situations where we'll have, say, inlets on either side of the road, it's designed, the storm system is designed for the volume of water that is anticipated to get there, and the road has a crown to it. So depending on which side of the crown that water falls on, it'll go to this inlet or to this inlet.
Okay, but I don't understand how the inlets, how it's gonna work, that this is gonna go
It
to,
would be based on gravity and how things are flowing, you know, with gravity to a specific point. So everything is designed to be funneled to a specific inlet that then that water would enter a pipe, and then maybe there's another inlet farther down that's capturing that and adding to that water in that pipe, and then it continues so on and so forth.
right now on Seventh Avenue, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the, on the east side. They have, I don't know what you call it, they have pipes because the water is coming down a hill down towards where Hell Pump used to be. So it's like a deluge of water, and those things can't even handle what's already there. Is that something that you're talking about?
Correct.
Because also you can't park there because, you know, at nighttime you could run into a ditch and not even know it.
So that's, you know, I can't say that project in particular is going to be accounted for in a certain time frame, but that type of project is something that we would be looking at, where, you know, pipes are no longer sized correctly to handle the volume of water that's being produced by the impervious area. So that would be something that would be captured in this program.
Okay, now, all the apartments and all these high-rise buildings that the Conshohocken Borough has allowed to come in, they're in flood zones. So now you've made the flood zone even worse because they're right on the river. The water has no place to go now because of these apartments that are up. And some of them might even be in White Marsh Township or Plymouth Township and part of Conshohocken. It's not like it's cut thin. How does that come into effect?
So
Do those people, do those renters, who pays for that problem down there?
So the program will charge all property owners with over 300 square feet of impervious area. So the property owner for the apartment building or whoever owns that parcel would be assessed that bill. How they break that bill up, you know, is not something that we are involved in. If they pass that cost on to the renters, that's what they do. It becomes a civil issue at that point, right? As far as the flooding situation down there, the magnitude of that flooding is not something that is addressable with our program. Now, we'll be able to make positive impacts to it, but we will not be able to get rid of that flooding.
Yeah, because how are you going to stop the river from flooding everything out?
And a lot of it has,
Too long.
and a lot of it has to do with how the water's being handled upstream. So being as far downstream as we are here, there's a lot of unmanaged water upstream that is causing those issues.
Okay, and let me see if I have anything else. We get a water bill, mine's through Aqua, I'm assuming everyone else is Aqua, and then I get my sewer bill through the authority. And they split it up. One, I guess someone asked about, well, how are you breaking this down? Will this fee show on the borough's bill that they bill quarterly?
It'll show up on the authority bill, that is associated with your sanitary. So where applicable. Now, there's some situations where, you know, a bill could potentially be sent to a tenant and we aren't billing the tenant, we're billing the property owner. So in those situations, I don't think that's common. But in those situations, for example, it would be a separate bill sent to the property owner. But wherever applicable, we are going to be including that on the existing sanitary bill.
Okay, so just my last question to
Sure.
make sure that I'm understanding. You had made a comment about people like, I have grass right by the street, then I have a sidewalk, which is concrete, then I have grass, then I have the steps up to my house, which are concrete, then I have a porch to my house, and then you go back and I have grass, and I have a shed, but it's not on a concrete slab or anything. So the water is going in, my parking lot is all stone. So the water is going in. You had made a comment that because I had that, I'm gonna be penalized because my house has a porch that it came with?
You wouldn't be penalized for it. You would just be assessed a fee based on the amount of impervious existing on that parcel. Now, if it's a single family residential parcel, you're assessed that $10 no matter if you had one shed or two sheds. Because all of the single family residential properties are essentially within a couple hundred square feet of each other. So, yeah. But the fee is assessed based on the amount of impervious that exists on the parcel.
So how will I know how much impervious land that I have?
Are you a single family residential property?
I'm attached to someone, I'm a twin.
But the parcel is, when I say single family, I don't necessarily mean a standalone home on a parcel. I mean,
It's a single family twin.
yes,
He's-
so
he's
so
got his
it's two
background with that.
two separate deeds.
Yeah.
For, yes, so that would be considered a single family, so you would be assessed that $10 a month charge. So the amount of impervious specifically for your property wouldn't necessarily impact the amount of your bill because we're doing that ERU billing for residential properties.
But if someone has a lot more land, a double lot, they have more land, so do they get charged the same amount or?
They would be if they're a single family property. They would be charged the same amount. And although they have, a larger area and more impervious, the amount of impervious for them is not significant enough to justify having a separate rate for those types of properties. So that's why we did the ERU, because it's taking the average both from the low end and from the high end and giving us the average for those properties.
And what's the ERU again? It's the.
Equivalent residential unit. So it's similar to an EDU in sanitary.
Okay, I got it. Now I'm all done. Thank you. I
Sure.
appreciate
Come up. Thank you.
If you're done, stop sharing.
I'm gonna keep it up just in case I have to go back to other slides.
Hi, my name is Chris Bertino. I live on West Sixth Avenue. What other methods of paying for this were looked at?
Sure. So I can't speak to what was looked at before we were brought on board and brought into the conversation. But I know that the most common one that everyone looks at first is raising taxes. So there's some problems with equitability when you do that, because a tax value doesn't equate to the impact on a stormwater system. But I can't really speak to what all was looked at or considered.
Who can?
Who would be the best one to talk to that?
So in regards to your question, obviously, if we read the newsletter in regards to how it was addressed, what is currently under the Borough of Conshohocken. we, the authority, are taking over the system. So underneath, since I've been here with the 2 years, we've been talking, we started this process about 2 years ago when I was on board. And the way we're doing it is dressed on equitable ways, as Tyler explained. So this is a fee-based system, which is a legal system and how we're doing this. So it's basically utilization, just like you use your car, if you use 5 gallons of gasoline,
That's not my question.
you're asking prior to this, the way it was developed is how we're doing it.
I'm looking at like, did you look at any other methods to fund this besides?
So-
a fee?
So if I may, I think there's really only two ways to fund this, and it would be through a general tax increase and the implementation of a utility.
I think that that's an opinion. I think there's many ways to budget. We all do that every day. We're budgeting our expenses
Sure.
with our income. So I think there's solutions that may not have been thought of.
I mean, funding options such as grants and things, I'm sure that they were addressed and considered. I know that we've discussed how,
Educated on what all was looked at, that this was the determination, because you have a meeting in January, but this is a done deal. You're already talking about the bill in April. The bill in April is from January, February, and March. So you're meeting in January for what? You're already charging people in January. We're just getting the bill in April, right? Is that right?
the intent is to start the program.
Just to make
the
sure
first
I
of the year.
understand, because I don't like being kind of smoke and mirrors. I don't really know what the truth is. Another issue I have is this lovely graph that was put in this letter that we got. I don't know if anybody else looked at this. But you compared a fee, a monthly fee of $10 to an entire electric bill. Why? You're comparing apples and oranges. Why am I looking at an electric bill that's roughly $120 compared to this $10 fee? You're making it look like the fee's nothing. I looked at my Pico fees. For electric, I pay 82 cents a month. 82 cents a month is a lot cheaper than $10 a month, right? Pico.
Yes.
For electric, it's 82 cents. For gas, it's $3.56, so it's a jump. Not $10 a month. Verizon came out on top at $10.13 for their fee. I have 3 phones.
That, you're looking at it wrong. You're paying, how much is your cell phone a month?
My cell phone's like $111.
Okay, so you pay $111 a month. So do you have, I assume you're a resident in town, correct?
I'm a homeowner.
So your water that leaves your house is utilizing a utility. No different than electric on the power lines, no different than the sewer line, no different than a cell phone.
Right.
So the process of this is what we need to do is maintain our infrastructure. So in order to get where we need to maintain this facility, our lines underneath this system, is essential that we come up with a fee that develops us, that in 50 years, that the town doesn't fall apart and we do our part. And the regulations, as Tyler explained, the regulations, he didn't get into the RBC yet, which is Delaware River controls our destiny in regards to water quality. In 2035, 2040, the regulations are going to be much more stringent than they are today. So what we're doing,
That we had to do this by 2023. And we haven't.
The funding.
There was all this discussion before. So waiting until the 11th hour to do something?
The discussion has been occurring
Not with us.
since there have been public discussions associated with the MS4 program for the last probably 10 years or so.
What month did the sewer authority get rid of our discount?
I think we should have said.
About 6 months ago.
Well, I'm asking the
Yeah.
authority. You work there.
Three cycles ago, probably.
Yeah.
Why?
I would say it wasn't equitable anymore.
So I lost my discount. I always paid early because I called and they said, yeah, you did. I lost my discount. Now you're gonna charge me more. I'm paying more because now I don't get a discount. People who own pools, swimming pools, they used to get a discount. When that stopped?
That's before I was working here. I can't.
So now look at how much more money. And I'm sorry to talk about the elephant in the room, but the borough, the sewer authority hired somebody who stole money. We've all been paying for it ever since. Come on, let's call it what it is. We're paying for the hiring error that you guys made. And it may not have been you, I realize that. But we've been around long enough that we're the ones paying for it. And now we're paying again. And I think that there needs to be somebody looking at a budget saying, okay, maybe we can't give the salaries to these people that we're paying them because we can't afford to. Maybe we can't hire an engineering firm at your rate because we can't afford to. Where's that discernment of we can't afford to do this because we're going to just drive our residents out of town? I'm at least still working. I'm not retired. There are people retired. There's $1 million home being sold on West 6th Avenue.
Yeah.
Those people are going to get $10. So am I. I don't live in $1 million home.
And they have 2-car detached garages with a driveway. They will not.
This is not equitable, and you're screwing the little person who's trying to get ahead. Like, I'm sorry, there has to be another way than just making the residents just suck it up and pay for it. It's ridiculous, and I'm sorry, this graph was an insult to everyone's intelligence to compare a fee to a whole bill. I get utilities. I freaking work for Verizon. I understand. I understand how utilities work. I understand how junk fees work. And this is a junk fee. And the government, the federal government is coming down on junk fees. So how are you going to pay for this when the administration says, hey, you got to stop all these junk fees, get rid of them? What are you going to do then?
So I think there's a disconnect in the term fee and utility charge. So this is a
Utility company
this is-
no.
this is a utility charge.
We're done. So if you work for a utility, then in my opinion, since you work for Verizon, correct?
Yeah, I
So-
don't get there either.
There is no difference in those poles on the streets and on the infrastructure. So
Disagree
So-
with our fees, same
you have the
thing.
right to disagree. But in order to maintain the infrastructure in the borough,
There's a different way to do it. There's a better way to do it than to just killing the citizens of the town.
Would you like these 3 sheets of grants that are offered, or just this plan, the watershed and everything else? I got all the.
That's what you said in your presentation. You can't get grant money for this, right?
The grant programs are very competitive. So it isn't something that can be considered a reliable income stream to address these.
We're just gonna keep shelling it out, shelling it out, shelling it out. There goes my retirement. I mean,
You know-
you gotta think, I've lived in this town my entire life. You're killing us. $10 a month? That's not showing up as a $10 bill. That's showing up as $30 on my sewer bill every quarter. $30 and no discount.
These are 80s, right?
Yes, it already went up. That cost me a discount. And I have a spot that I can't get a discount for. That doesn't go into the sewer. It doesn't go into anything. No revenue. So I'm just here to say you're killing us. Somebody please care that you're killing us. We're trying to get ahead. We're trying to dig out of student loans and trying to improve my property. You're killing us.
When you improve your property, then they assess you.
Exactly. I mean, I can't make my property better here without getting killed some other way. And my dad was a steel worker. Like, I'm true country. You're killing us. Stop. This person who built you out of hundreds of thousands of dollars, go to an insurance company and get your money back. Do something. But my God, don't put it on us. It's not our fault. We didn't hire her. And you may not have either, but your business did. Your company did. It's not fair. Please think about us.
I'm not going to lambaste too much, except that you didn't think very clearly years ago. All this was already in place. But you built those large towers down there. Back in the 60s and 70s, northern New Jersey already had a way of leaching chemicals, other pollutants, out of the ground. I don't know what you call these retention basins. I gather they're man-made, almost like down at the sewer authority. Isn't that nice? And more impervious. But why are you not thinking clearly, since you obviously did plan it that well, and you allowed them, just because you get a higher tax base with all those buildings down there, that whole field there could have been used as a leaching site for all of these pollutants that you're complaining about. New curbing and inlets. How many years ago, was it too long ago, like Aquatorium on the streets, putting in pipes?
Borough.
The borough did that, but Century Utilities was the band that was there working. Why didn't you consider the size of the pipes you put in then? And all these curb replacements for their disabilities? And all the inlets? Why didn't you think ahead? You're supposed to be smart, but you're not using your head. You don't care. All you know is that you have all this endless money that you think is being raked in from us. And many of us, including myself, no longer have a pension because the company I worked for many years, they dropped it. So where do you want to get the money out of me? My blood? Much in me. The other thing I had is this new utility you talk about. Is that a whole new entity, sir?
It would be so the stormwater infrastructure will be transitioned to the authority.
Not one
The authority.
transition. I'm talking about a separate department, completely not associated with the authority. Too many times I've had run-ins with the authority. And in case some of you don't know, they remember me. Not too long ago, I actually took the authority to court. 4 of their lawyers showed up. How long do you think I did? One old lady, 4 lawyers, just because I had an apartment and I gave up my license and I no longer had water and shovel in 2014. And they've been charging me sewer bills 4 times a year ever since then. On top of the apartment that I live in downstairs. I'm a senior citizen. I don't have any family around here. You're not thinking and you don't care a damn. Excuse me, but that is about as polite as I could put it. Now, these leaching fields, where else can you find around here? Since you're having problems down at 7th Avenue, because one of the things I was going to ask about, because that floods a lot around 10th Avenue, I think it is, isn't it? Where it's usually shut off by the police, by the ice there. The Caldwell Lane. There too. Pretty soon they're gonna have one of these streets coming down. Like what, Conshohocken? There, so you know it's flooded. Yes. Now, education credit, I did mention because I couldn't take it any longer. I did look it up and there's 3 pages of grants. Many of them are still open. Many of them are not just duplicates, but they're triplicates across many different ways of applying. Try it. You're not going to find out if you can get it if you don't apply.
Well, I'll just make a comment regards the authority, and again, I'm new to this.
I realize that.
Has had very good success in getting grants.
I understand that.
So we will always be forefront in going for grants or any possible avenues to get more revenue to offset the fee.
It was the way he worded it that I
But I'm
was.
just saying, I know for a fact, and Ed, if you agree with this, the authority has been very progressive in getting grants. Any capital improvements.
So what size pipe did you put down there? When I was studying this at Temple, Mr. You over there, you studied it too. I studied this at Temple University, by the way. There are certain size culverts, pipes, the whole things that you plan out ahead of time, depending on how much water is going to come down, the slope, everything that you take into. Did they bother asking you for your input since you studied all this?
Actually, no, because I was never involved with stormwater. This is new this is new for the authority.
Doesn't this remind you of before 2001, when the federal government's departments didn't talk to each other about terrorist activities? I mean, you're failing us. Why are you being upset? And she's more knowledgeable than I am because she actually works in that area. Please don't do this to us. You think it's nothing, just like when you have our real estate bills and you give us that guff about, oh, we have one of the lowest rates in Montgomery County. Compared to who? Upper Merion is lower than us.
We got
You
plenty
don't
of
know
buildings,
it.
businesses to counteract.
Please, when you make other decisions, and who's this? Okay, other decisions in the future, and I'm sure you have more on your plate. Please think first, thoroughly, before you ruin more lives. These aren't just mine. There's kids around here whose parents are stressed out. It's bad enough that they have to listen to the main government for what they're doing in the schools. Now you're going to affect their livelihood. Shame on you.
I think we have a question in the chat quick, if I can just address that. You can come up and this will only take a second. So the question in the chat was, which stormwater BMPs are anticipated to be installed to treat pollutants and rates, i.e. water quality filters, infiltration basins, MRCs, et cetera. So, Alicia, that is going to be, the intended project is a infiltration basin. So that's what we're looking at currently. However, all of those options are considered for, future requirements. But the current PRP term will be an infiltration basin.
How wide would these pipes be?
That's a basin that is essentially a bowl, we'll call it, right? That all of the stormwater is flowing to it. The size of the pipes is really depending on how much water is flowing there. And it's a grassed area, essentially a large field that then the water can be captured and held there. It'll have an outlet structure that releases it at a certain rate based on the depth associated.
Strawberry Mansion had a, I have.
She can go.
Strawberry Mansion had something where they retained it and it burst through. Do you remember that?
Something there here.
It was near Smith.
But they're in the meeting as well.
Yeah, no. Here. All right, my name is Matt. Anyway, where are these basins gonna be put in town?
So the basin,
I'm just going into this. And, no, where, you do know where they're going, right?
correct. So for the PRP or the infrastructure projects?
Well, where's all this water going?
So
Same place it does now, just down the road.
currently, all of the water essentially goes to the Schuylkill River.
So now you're
So-
putting basins in, you're saying.
The intent is to do a single large basin. The name of the park is escaping me. Do you remember? Yeah, Sutcliffe Park.
You're gonna get it from the east side to the west
Sutcliffe.
side?
Sutcliffe Park.
No, it would be run out from the west side. Yeah. All right, so you're.
Not all of this water is going there. Not all of the water is going there.
All right,
We're required to get,
Everybody's getting charged.
because we're doing that PRP project to address the 10% reduction in sediment that we're required to do. And then we're also doing infrastructure projects throughout the borough.
Who were these people who are taxing south?
It would be churches, schools, federal buildings, all the,
Federal building?
like any governmental building.
There is no tax. This is a fee-based.
But nobody would be exempt from this.
They got a roof over, it. How about here?
There's no one exempt
That
in
all-
regards to this. Anyone that has utilization of rainwater come down to their property and it's.
In whole town, everyone.
Everybody will be assessed a fee if there's over 300 square feet of impervious area.
All right. What if the guy has, like you were kind of trying to explain it? What if you have a whole empty lot, everything's going,
There's nothing constructed on the lot,
Yeah,
there would be no fee assessed.
So
And-
those,
and if your house is going onto that,
If you
from your
construct,
lot,
if you construct a house on that lot,
the house is there already, with the water's going into your yard.
I'm not sure I'm following you.
Your rainwater's going off the property onto your yard.
Okay, so the rainwater goes onto your yard and then continues to exit your property.
No, some of it goes into the ground.
Some of it does, sure.
Right, places that have built in-ground retention.
And that, if there's a retention mechanism that is designed to mitigate stormwater, it would be applicable for a credit based on the peak rate and volume control. So that's a reduction in your rate based on, you know, what is installed and what is quantifiable that has been installed.
All right, there's a project going on now down by Seventh and Eighth Avenue on the east side. I was ready to put in. They have a big sewer, running around a little bit sewer right now. How's that gonna be taken care of? Right?
Seventh and Eighth Avenue, it's both private and.
I know, is that, are they gonna take care of all that down there, or is that part of the? Would that be part of the project? No,
It's completed, part of this.
why are we paying for that project?
You're not, the land is part of the land development agreement. The new construction of that is being by the development.
We get a form, since it's like that right now, and we just got all this information, is that gonna be ripped out, done right?
Yes.
That's all we're gonna rip out?
Trust me when I tell you, it's because of that, you know, it's designed it, three different engineers,
It's not gonna patch today.
it's not, there was an attempt to do that, and that has changed.
I'm just saying, because people have been asking it.
It's gonna be designed right
Now that this is out in the open.
when,
Uh,
I'm sorry, just
Go ahead.
what you're talking about. When Hale Pine Pump was selling their property, why didn't the borough buy that property and have that as whatever you would call basins, you know, leach fields, whatever? Now, all those cones, this water right now is just running down the street. That's a flood zone to me. Why is everyone building in flood zones? Sorry, it's your question. It was rhetorical.
Well, that's something you have to ask council. And they're not here.
I know.
And how come nobody is?
Because it's a meeting for us, for people who wanted to get educated.
Well, who hires?
They don't want to answer.
So we're the sewer authority.
I know.
We're the council, or,
I know, but you're telling me the council has nothing to do with it? They're gonna go, we don't know nothing. They're their own entity. Seriously? I can't.
This is an informational session and I'll be honest, I made the decision, I didn't want decision makers here. I want a free flowing meeting. You can see this is pretty free flowing. I'm very letting people speak. So I'm allowing it to roll out this way. So it was my decision not to have authority members here, solicitors here. I wanted a public session where there's a free, open discussion.
So
And that's why, if you see, I'm very letting everyone speak, getting their people's opinions.
why wouldn't you though, something like that? It's not like, oh, I'm letting you do it.
It was my decision. So if you have an issue with that, obviously, yeah, I'm just saying, I have no issue.
I mean, people in town want to know. I know not everybody's here. Maybe they're watching or
Yeah.
doing whatever. You know,
I think he's trying to.
I think it should be more people involved.
Be open.
So the next time everybody gets together, which is January 17th, right, the 18th or whatever,
18th.
yeah. Are they gonna be here?
Yes.
So that meeting they're gonna be.
It'll be the meeting of our party meeting, which will be next week. Everyone, you're welcome to come to that meeting as well.
Well, sure, but I'm just saying that the next meeting that scheduled.
For, in January.
That's an educational like this is.
That is correct.
What are they gonna be
They
here?
will not be for that, but for the authority meeting next week, they will be there.
You said you examined pipe. Which ones did you examine?
Well, there was an assessment done. I'm sorry,
Can you tell me which ones you did?
the specific, but yeah, I mean, not
It's
on,
only a small town.
not on hand, I don't, but we have it within GIS of the, assessment criteria that was done. And have a ranking system for,
So how did it rank? How does it like rank?
across the board.
Well, whatever ones you look at, yes.
It varied. Some were good, some were not good. So there are some that need replaced as soon as possible.
When would that be?
Hopefully as soon as we get the funds available to do that and create the plan for, how to best handle the infrastructure replacement and
And
updates.
I still don't understand why the sewer would be in charge of the rain.
The,
Sewer authority.
the,
Why can't you get, another together or the council, you don't trust them either, or put the money somewhere?
it's a separate fund. So I do want to clarify that this money cannot be used for anything other than stormwater program costs.
Every time they go to dip into it, you let the town know.
It's legally not, it's not able to be utilized for anything outside of this stormwater program. So any dollar associated with this program cannot be used for any funding outside of stormwater related projects at all.
Governments are corrupt, maybe not you, but they are corrupt.
I seem to look at it.
Sure.
The funds are going to be public, just like every other fund that is associated with the authority. It'll be public record.
But the sewer authority will be overseeing the other fund, the fund for the,
Correct.
What's the increase in their salary?
None, zero.
No increase, but they still get one. They get, they're paid up or something. There's new.
So if you look as we present our authority budget,
The way you phrase it, yeah.
the way you saw his feet, the budget up there, 800 and some thousand dollars. The authority itself is almost a wash in regards to what are associated with our costs. We're actually very minimal. The goal of this whole project is implementation of infrastructure. The capital plan, you saw the capital number, is getting the needs of the system. So there's very minimal. We're implementing like this year, we're doing a major upgrade to our Excel system, which is our background of our budgeting process. We're implementing this at no cost to the process. Our goal is, and if you don't know me at all, but in regards to how we're going to implement this, is every dollar that's coming in this is going to be utilized for the infrastructure of the stormwater. That is the ultimate goal here. You heard Tyler explain it. The system's, some areas 50, 60, 80, 100 years old. There's a need. In regards to, we can talk about, I'm new, and you're saying what occurred in the past. All I can tell you what was going forefront, where we're headed, is improvements of this town to ensure that the future capabilities of this can handle the system. We are required to remove pollutants. End of statement. And in order to meet the needs of those pollutants reduction, we have to get to the point of doing these type of strategies.
Tear down the buildings.
But we don't trust the sewer authority
No
because
way.
of past behavior. I'm sorry, it's not your fault.
You, but that is like the paper here. And I'm sorry for jumping down like a rabid dog, but I'm very PO'd about that.
I hear you. And all you can do is hopefully, again, with your concern,
And I'm still getting it.
How much do you guys cost the borough?
As far as throughout this,
For you guys.
we are operating on a time and materials basis. So as much as we're needed, I can't.
Hourly rate. How many people are involved? How many people?
It depends how many people are needing. Larger projects will have more staff involved. Smaller projects, it'll probably just be me.
Good.
That's it. That's the honest answer. I'm not trying to do anything secretive.
Must be court lawyer.
I disagree with your statement. If you're not listening to the words I just gave you, You don't know me, but I'll tell you right now,
You don't know the history of this place.
I run many municipalities.
And I hope you do make a change.
Okay.
Right now, it's
So
not-
in regards to the structure of what occurs in this town, I have no problem. It's one of the most efficient operations I know of. I've been doing this type of work for 30-some years, okay?
There's hope for us.
And I'm telling you, the operation of the authority is efficient. I can't control what occurred. I know, hear you what you stated that, but I'm talking where we're headed. We have the obligation to make sure the infrastructure of this town is met. End of statement. And in order to meet these needs, and what the federal government, I know you're talking about federal government, the state government, we are localized. I'm not even going to go how we found it. Local government is the control identity. That's what it's I can't blame them in regards to how government works. We are
When you
a
say
commonwealth.
we-
So in regards to how we are doing this, it is essential that these aspects we're talking about are met.
Or you're saying we with him?
He's our consultant, so he'll be directed by myself
Yeah,
and
who is we? You say
the
we.
authority. Plus,
So you work for the borough?
I work for the authority, I do not work for the borough.
Well, the authority. Okay.
But you're.
We are separate and
Are the records open there?
Yes, they are.
Anytime?
you can get them anytime, write to no request, or any items that you would like to do.
Sometimes people say, you know, they were on a thing you can't have in it.
Our budgets are on our website as
Yeah,
well.
well,
And I'll open to anyone here. Anyone has a right to come down, give me a call Ed. I will give you a sit down, one-on-one.
a lot of people just asking her.
Yeah.
About that, asking like what the hell, you know,
May I
pretty much
ask,
run down the hill.
sir, a quick question?
Sure.
Did you bother including the big guys in this borough? The ones that have the big apartments where all of their sewers from every apartment or office is all funneled into one large sewer pipe, and they only get one sewer bill at a discount. Whereas many of the rest of us might have more than one sewer line. We don't get any discount. Have you asked them to pull their share?
They are paid by EDUs.
What's that?
So if there's 50 renters in that apartment complex, they're paying 50.
Let's say that it's.
But are they paying the borough?
It's the same thing. It's based upon it.
They have ways around it. They build their rent. So it's just that they're not doing their share
How about-
towards this.
How about the Plymouth Creek down there? You know, I mean, we're talking about runoff, crap like that. Is anybody ever gonna get in there, hog that out? Clean it up so it can flow faster and better?
I can't answer that question right now. I could research that question for you on your behalf.
No idea either.
So as far as,
Everything goes down that way and it reaches, ends up sinking.
Sure.
Right, it's a problem.
I'm not familiar with the specific situation that you're referring to. However, what I will say is, there is potential to clear debris from within the stream itself. There is permitting and things that will need to be factored in.
It's a relatively small thing and it floods a lot down there and everything's coming from towards the Metroplex across the road.
Correct.
And everything's down in here and it hits that little crap brick that's loaded up with broken trees and crap.
Yeah, so depending on the situation, it may require permits, to get in the stream and do work. I mean, that's something that we can evaluate. Absolutely.
Trying to solve the problem, becoming good.
I'm not saying that we'll have a problem getting it. I'm just saying that it's a factor as far as timeline goes. But I'm happy to look into it as a potential project.
But you don't have any idea where you're gonna put this retention basin?
The retention basin will go at Sutcliffe Park.
East side. Where?
There's not, we don't have a need to have a basin on the east side and the west side. We have a need to reduce our sediment loading by 10%. Based on the calculations done for the basin design, which I was not a part of that. They are able to get the 10% reduction from that basin for the overall loading within the borough. So we only need that one basin to meet our PRP requirements. The other projects associated at this time with this program are implementing improvements to the infrastructure, replacing pipes, replacing inlets. At a later time, when we have our next permit requirements, we will likely look at other project sites for where the,
Not that much land left.
well, and we will address that at that.
Something that size, I mean, how about, when you go down into Sutcliffe Park, it's gonna be underground,
That's the intent, yeah, so there'll be an underground detention.
it's gonna be able to be cleaned out when all the crap that goes in it and everything.
There,
Nobody's all the way. Can't even get.
there is a life expectancy for them, but there is also clean outs associated with it that you can put essentially a vac truck, connect the vac truck to it and suck out sediment. At some point, it will likely have to be dug up and have the fill within it, the stone within the detention basin replaced. But you know, there's a life expectancy for everything, and it's just kind of the way that it is. But there will be O&M associated with it.
Think one like that you're planning on putting in.
Uh,
So, you know, you have different styles, sizes, things like that.
Correct. So the basin itself, I would say would be good for probably 20-ish years. And it depends, I mean, it really depends how much debris is making its way into it, but there's also things that we can do to prevent debris from getting in, such as snouts at the front to capture, you know, as much as we can at that point. So, you know, depending on the final design and everything, it'll change the life expectancy of that basin.
How large you make it.
The basin itself, I don't have those numbers handy.
Do you have a picture of one?
Of an
Picture of what one will look like.
underground.
Some of them are high burns.
No, we're not.
So we're gonna do an underground system.
Yes. And the underground, is that covered with what?
They would be covered with grass.
With grass. It's nothing that's going to come up and pollute the kids. I'm thinking of Love Field in New York. Remember that caused so much cancer last century? Because they did something, they buried things into the ground. It should never have been developed.
So this,
That was Occidental, I get that, but we're not dealing like Occidental did up there. I mean, that was Occidental. That was a different situation. This is dealing with stormwater, not,
You don't know what pollutants are coming out of the sky anymore.
Will this basin be sealed in some way? Is there an odor associated with this basin? Because I live right by Sutcliffe Park and I don't want to start smelling something.
it'll fully dry out between storms.
Okay.
There's a requirement for dewatering of a minimum of 72
I
hours.
actually understand how the little things work, so thank you.
Nature doesn't go by requirements many times.
But design does.
Thank you.
Playground.
well,
Is that safe or what? They take their kids' playground away.
Hi there. I'm
I
Marianne.
wonder if they made that back then.
Thank you for saying that the funds are gonna be restricted, for stormwater, infrastructure. Thank you for saying the funds are gonna be in a, restricted account for stormwater remediation, purposes only. I look forward to that. So just a couple of questions. You had a slide up there for the estimated, annual, expenses, right?
Yes.
And I think they were split for, one was for operations and maintenance, and one was for cap improvements.
Mhm.
Is there a breakdown on that? So when I look at that and I see that three quarters of that is for operations and maintenance. So do you have a breakdown?
Yeah, and that would be in the authority budget, which I believe is available online.
and we can get that information, it'll be online and everything as well.
So, but like, for example, that would include,
It would be a line item budget.
okay.
Yeah.
And, so I have that on the estimated revenue side. For the estimated, as it's in now, proposed for the fees on an annualized basis.
The revenue, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
That's the budget for the cost. How about the estimated revenue side?
So
As the proposal stands now.
the estimated revenue is just shy of $1 million. And that is to account for credit amounts, delinquency amounts, and things of that nature.
Okay. So speaking of the credit amounts, I may have missed it. So bills go out for in April, starting for billing period in January. Did I miss, when can homeowners and businesses start appealing for any type of the credits that you outlined?
So it would be,
How do you go about that?
it would be, so an appeal is to bring to the attention the authority that an issue with the impervious area measurements exists. So that would be for properties that are not single-family residential. Single-family residential properties could appeal because they're receiving a bill that they shouldn't be, as far as they don't own this property, et cetera. As far as the credits go, as soon as the formal approval of the program and the credit policy is completed by the authority, those credit applications could be applied for. So as soon as that is formally approved, that information will be posted on the authority's website. And at that point, anybody can apply for those credits. And the process would be essentially you complete the application form and submit any supporting documentation, and the credit policy will include what documentation we require at minimum. Depending on the situation, additional information might be requested. That then gets reviewed, and then a determination is made. And if a credit should be awarded, the adjustment would go to the bill. So the intent is to allow you to assess or apply for these credits and have them assessed to your account before that first bill is received in April.
Yeah, I think that would be the ideal approach. I would suggest, though, as the other speaker said, when you are considering approaches for applying equitably some sort of fee structure for the stormwater management. I think, an ERU approach, as long as there's not, variability, and I think that's where you're going for with the individual homeowner, is one way, it's a way. Is it the ideal way for a municipality like Conshohocken, given our demographics, given what we try to embrace as a town, knowing that there is an aging population that I feel is sorely underaddressed? And when you say that, a $10 fee, and I agree that chart was insulting to me as a wage earner, and I can't imagine what it feels to a senior citizen for $10 is everything, everything. And so, to me, equity to a senior citizen would be you don't charge them at all.
Thank you.
And to me, when I think of alternative approaches, I realize that you might not have background on grants. There are many grants out there, and they should have been investigated and proposed, and you should have that information tonight before this even gets proposed, before we even get this flyer. Considering that this has been a multi-year rollout of this program that we knew as a borough was coming. And number two, I think it's important as leaders in this town that you read the room. And obviously you're hearing a lot tonight about the overdevelopment. I believe in balanced development, but the overdevelopment in this town. And that's where I was so pleased to hear you talk about, Tyler, about the runoffs from roofs and parking lots. That's where a lot of this comes from. It's not the homes that have been in this town occupied by our precious seniors for 100 years. And when we talk about the infrastructure improvement, I think it's important to recognize that with this new development has come millions of dollars in the last years in business privilege tax and earned wage income tax. And I would look to there as another source. And I realize in terms of balancing a budget, when you have money, you spend money. And Conshohocken has done that. But we have gotten millions of dollars of new revenue into this town. And I would look to where we are spending that money first before we start charging senior citizens $10 more a quarter when they're
No, a month.
A month. Oh, okay, that's right, $120. I'm thinking of my cable bill, my streaming. So I would think of those alternatives first
$60
before we start charging another $120 a year estimated for our wastewater management and stormwater management. There's other ways, if you think think innovatively, and I like to think that Conshohocken's that kind of a borough. That's all I got.
Request for all of us,
Just,
I know you gentlemen from Kansas. Or could you ask him when we all get a detailed copy of a report of the stormwater program of our properties? We each should get a copy of that showing where you claim there is impervious areas. We'd like to have that.
Just the room in general. Seats are great. When those seats are filled, that's when you gotta come back.
Wait, I have something
Okay.
to say about that.
And who chose to have this after the election, I'd like to know.
I'm sorry.
Because there's a reason why it wasn't done before the election. Because we all would have gone to our borough council and they would have to give us an answer. So anyway, I know I'm not gonna get an answer for that. So the money, this fee is for life, correct? $10 a month for life?
The length of the fee will be directly correlated to the requirements assessed from DEP.
Okay, so it's, what guarantee is it that it's not gonna go up?
None.
The cost,
It's the government.
Two non-answers, okay? Amazing.
Remember what Reagan said? We are the government
Now.
that came to help you.
On the construction, nothing's done on the east side. No retaining, no retention basins, no nothing. So we're spending all this money to save for the government, our government who doesn't follow any rules. You're telling me that we have to follow their rules, which I question. That this is for 10% saving of supposed bad stuff going into the school. So basically all the pollution on the east side goes right down into the river. Because you're not going to stop flooding, you know that, 'cause it's what happens upstream. Not going to stop. Been here all my life, same location. Happens every X amount of years. And to the sewer authority. We talk about the sewers for 30 or 40 years and nothing's been done. No replacement, no nothing. I mean, I know you guys don't know. And to the sewer authority about the money.
okay, okay, let me answer your statement question. Okay, in regards to the collection system of the authority, in regards to infiltration and inflow, this is probably the best system in the state in regards to inflow and infiltration. So there is no need to replace the sewer lines. So the infrastructure of the sewer lines are in really good standings in this town. The stormwater, as we're here developing this process, is in need. Tyler we have videos, there's questions before asked about what the infrastructure underground is stormwater. There's a need there. And I know you're talking about government, this and that.
Is it really worth it?
It has to be done.
Well, I question that.
Well, you have the right to question that, but there's a need. So if we do needs and wants, it's not a want, it's a need. So in regards to the infrastructure of underneath the ground, it needs to be maintained. And at the rate that was going, I can't control what occurred 5 years ago. Talk about 5, 10 years ago. Well, maybe it was mismanaged. We are heading in a direction where we're going next. And I can reiterate, this is the beginning of the process to ensure integrity of the system.
Well, the only way this is gonna work is you have to come to the next meeting, and the board that they should be here, this has to be a tax. Let them vote on including a tax, and we don't like it, we vote them out of office. That's really my suggestion to the crowd in general. Because, all these new buildings, I'm a lifelong resident, live 2 blocks from here, 67 years at the same location. I've worked on almost every house in Conshohocken, I know it inside out. And the amount of money, I'm into my family budget, the amount of money, I'm sorry, I wouldn't do it if that's all I'm getting. To save 10% of supposed stuff going into the river that what we're getting from Norristown, what we're getting from Pottstown. It's never going to end. It's not going to improve one of our lives at all. It's just not. It's just common sense. And I understand your job. I don't understand your job. I understand your job, and I'm not against anybody if you're doing your job. And I don't understand, do we have minutes of this meeting?
Yes, there will be minutes in
Because
this
there
meeting.
has been a problem with the borough getting minutes.
Yeah, we'll have minutes about this
meeting
meeting as well.
that I care.
We're taking down all your questions and you're presenting them and everything
As
else.
I said, no disrespect to any of you guys, you're all doing your
No, I
job.
appreciate that statement. I mean, but the agenda is,
And the other thing with the chart, which I didn't really study, but it's funny, I had solar done and they explained to me the Pico chart and how they you're right, that's exactly what they do with that letter you guys sent out. Instead of being, just be totally honest and let the chips fall where they fall, but it was
somewhat of a, I didn't know any better until I got solar. He showed me what Pico does to you, what the water company does to you in hiding the stuff on fine lines, and I understand why I'm in business, but it's not.
Now, one thing, as you talk about Pico, you're talking Verizon, we are not a profit organization. So in regards to every dollar it's utilized, we have to spend it appropriately.
Right, the problem is utilization problem. That's
Yeah.
always a problem.
Yeah.
Spending the money properly, it's always a problem, especially in a project. And stuff will get wasted, just hopefully not a lot. But I understand, but not that.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yes,
You said, are you sort of like a contractor?
yes.
Do you understand the purposes of competitive bids or have more than one study made?
Yes,
How many studies did they make?
so that's something we have to do our own. It's not be hard.
They're not saying anything. And the guy who did the study is relaxing, like, oh, please don't talk to me.
I'm sorry. As far as what study do you, I'm not sure.
So
They got
this
it.
is- I want to talk, okay.
Yeah.
I want to open up again. I want a formality. Is there any other questions that you would have come up to the podium?
I just,
So,
just to explain about Borough
Did you
Council.
come up and talk?
yeah, just, can you come up here, please? Yeah.
Sorry, thank you. I was at Borough Council meetings a couple months ago, and as soon as I saw that 800 whatever number that you had there, and everyone agreed on it in front of me, and I said to the person who I know on Borough Council, I said, where's the agenda? She says, well, I posted it to my account, to my Facebook account. I said, no, you say agenda, meeting, this, but you don't explain what we're going to be talking about. How do I find that information? So here I am, they're making all these decisions with me sitting here, and that 800 and some odd was done, and I still don't know what they were talking about, any of those things that they were discussing. And I asked my council person, how do I get this information? I don't want to just come to a meeting and sit here like a stupid person. And then somebody wrote that there was some other meeting and nobody showed up. Because you don't give us enough information to want to come in. And my friend still hasn't told me to this day, where does this information come from? You guys have a meeting and then you have a borough meeting and you decide. Well, I didn't know that that's what that was all about. So
In your eyes,
saying that the boroughs.
the information is there in regards to the legalities of the posting in the local newspapers on our website. And I'll be honest, we had an authority meeting 2 weeks ago. I was actually shocked that I had no one there. So I'm very shocked that, regarding the newsletter being out on our website, we had 0 people show up.
But
And that's why we entertain this type of forum. We put out a special newsletter to the fee payers, which you're all here. So I'll be honest, I was actually dumbfounded that we had no one at our authority meetings. We had no one. So you're welcome to come and voice your opinion at those authority meetings and at the council meetings, which I don't control the council, I control the authority.
But I was giving you the
Yeah,
example
and
of how council worked, and when I asked my council person, without trying to embarrass them, is, you guys made this decision, but what are you talking about? You're just, who goes for this 875,000? I'll first that motion, well, where was the motion? On your website, it didn't, not the borough.
Yeah.
The council person's
Okay.
website, it didn't say what was going to be considered, it just said agenda. I put one of those little sheets of paper out there that said, this is what we're, but it doesn't tell you what we're going to talk about, it just tells you that there's a meeting and we're going to discuss things. Everyone talks about transparency, but that wasn't transparent. And when I asked after the meeting, it was still like, well, what do you mean? Where did you get that? What were you talking about? How can I find out this information?
And
And
it should be, I'm not going to answer up how the borough or us, but we have no legal authority to make any changes to agenda with 24 hours. So in regards to with 24 hours, any of those meetings, the agenda's posted.
so you're saying that we have to check
We'd have to go,
to go on the website to get knowledge?
yes, that is correct.
When this count was discontinued, there was nothing mentioned in any minutes the prior meeting of what.
Thanks for listening.
I'd like to have a breakdown of where that money's going.
All right, so we have your statement of that, and you will see the breakdown.
I don't mean my report for my company, or my building or property. I'm talking about where that 800-some thousand dollar actually is going. Why is it so much? Where did you get it? And did you check the prices elsewhere? Just like we have a budget. You work for us. You may forget that, but you work for us.
So that value is anticipated costs based off of average market rates. The budget is available. It will be made available.
I don't need it on the computer. All those thousands of pages you have to go through to find something on the borough paper. You know,
How many bids did you put out for those?
Bids for what in regards to this?
For what?
for the
is
prices,
the-
of course, to be charged.
There's been no bids. This is anticipated costs regardless of what the needs of the system is.
So there's no other company that does what his company does?
He's a consultant.
I know,
He's
there's
not-
no other consultants out there?
Yes,
that-
there's
That
numerous.
charge
consultants.
different rates, and you wouldn't put this out to bid?
We request for proposal. That's what we did.
You're what?
Request for proposal. That's what we did for this.
You have to do that, and they were the only ones that were sent over?
Yes, we chose that.
No one, you chose them. Out of how many proposals were they?
So as I mentioned, I run numerous facilities across the state.
That's not gonna fly.
So you could, HRG is well capable in doing this type of work.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just asking you, how many proposals did you consider?
We had our own authority engineer and then HRG.
And is HOG, the being me, is your company related to anybody on borough council, sewer authority, anything to do with the borough?
No,
There's a board of directors at the sewer, authority, correct? And the board of directors was okay with only having the sewer authority and that company send proposals?
Many board members don't know anything.
they're well capable of doing the job.
There's not many,
I understand what you're saying, but I'm giving you the statement back. HRG is well capable of doing the implementation.
That's my question. If I'm gonna get a new roof on my house, I get 3 bids. That way I know, am I making the best decision? It doesn't sound like you went through that process. It's not about ability to do the job, right?
So what you're saying, again, I'm new to this system here, right? So where we're headed, we chose, in my recommendation to the authority, which you're welcome to come there, I chose HRG because I knew they had the quality and credentials with their engineering background. So the statement is, that's how it was processed.
Did you ever talk to anyone where people had lots of different ideas?
Yes.
And some ideas were better than.
So my ideas are, I'm gonna be clear. I've run over 30 different types of operations in my career, 30. So I think I'm well diverse in regards to who does a good job.
We don't know that.
Well, I know you don't.
We did this
But
in our lives.
Yes,
You realize that, right?
like
So
that.
in 30 years, I have not seen your resume. You could be blowing smoke right now. I don't know.
And they could be all.
Well, you can, as a trust value.
What is it? I really don't know who you are.
Okay,
Okay, so.
I'm giving you my,
I have
I'm speaking for the facts and truths.
years in my field too. That doesn't get me anything but my paycheck at the end of the day,
Right,
okay?
you're
This
fired.
meeting that's coming up next week, you said, that council will be here, those seats will be filled. What's the topic of that meeting? This?
That's what I was asking. They don't tell you.
Yes, it's realization of this process, correct.
So they're deciding next week whether to go through with this bill in April. Right?
That's correct.
Okay. So what is the purpose of the meeting in January? Because in the newsletter, it said that basically tonight and the meeting in January were equivalent meetings. They're not, are they?
No.
Tonight, the decision hasn't been made. But come January, it's a done deal. Correct?
The end of December, we got.
No, and maybe we misrepresent how we entailed, that will be an informational session after the process has been implemented. So that's what, Okay, then we misappropriated how we communicated.
Transparency here. The chart is
I
one
think-
level, that piece of information is another, and you have to read between the lines that you can figure out that come April, that means they're charging you in January. It's December. You had till 2023 to get something done, and we're in December of 2023. There's no transparency. So you establishing credibility.
I disagree with your statement. There's been plenty of transparency. There's been, look at the minutes, look at the Conshohocken.
Not in your discount removal. There was no transparency. I had to call and find out because I'm like, what the hell happened to my discount? I looked back through months of meeting minutes from your organization. None, not one mention of it.
But
There's no transparency. You may think there is. I'm a resident. I pay my bills.
But there was,
There's no
there
transparency.
was a memo on one of the bills, I do remember that.
Not a memo. This town was being.
Okay, so I'm gonna relate, we're gonna focus back on stormwater. Is there any other question? Excuse me. Yes.
So I was wondering if there's going to be any type of transparency on when this all is finished, come up with these numbers on a piece of paper, print out or something. But we all going to know who's paying what, where. Can you put that one little box, just like what the neighborhoods, the homes on there, and write on their properties, this is how much they pay, this is how much you pay, this is how much your other neighbor pays. All, obviously, for these guys, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend people can
Say,
So let me answer that statement. So
you walk up to one place,
You know what they're really.
and you just throw your little thing in here, look at it, figure out how things is, and that roughly is why this guy's getting this guy, then you question it. It's just like a tax. Yeah. You can go there, and all that.
So in regards to your question, it's our,
What's
we are legally able to provide that information because
Why?
it's an open record. So every,
Are you gonna do that with this money you're getting? Would you do that for how many people are in town, business owners, whoever? I mean, is that like a big chunk of change that you can't do?
no, I'll address that
You
statement.
know, I mean, you put something and say, how's that crazy?
You know, like a balance statement,
Well, you just might want to know.
financial papers.
That's fine.
Would you
You know,
say
just
you're
you can
next,
look it up, see if they can tackle it.
Yeah.
next,
You know.
that's big.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is there any other questions? You're welcome to come up. You're welcome. Okay, excuse me. Yeah, you're fine with that.
I just want to know about the rain barrels. How many rain barrels can we get credit for? I have to find my own.
So the rain barrel is a rebate. It would be a one-time rebate for one rain barrel. Now you're welcome to install as many as you would like, but we are only offering a rebate for one rain barrel.
No, but the big thing.
We're still in the process of determining what that dollar amount is. So I don't want to give you a number and have it be incorrect.
Do we buy our own rain barrels?
Correct, yeah.
And do we need a permit to get a rain barrel? Because then the borough's making more money off of us. Oh, good question. We need a permit for a rain barrel?
It is my understanding that you would not be required to get a permit for a rain barrel. However, I would recommend talking to the codes and zoning officer about that.
There's papers for it upstairs. Thank you, no, thank you.
So I'll open up one more time. Any more questions?
That was.
If not, I appreciate all your statements.
We'll start working for the council in future, see their qualifications.
That's that's not our,
That's not.
that's above our.
But since they are working for us, we should see what we're getting. Well, they were voted in by the people and that's how they look at it, but so was George Santos and look what just happened to him. You don't know.
We've already get to be in.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
good.
So I appreciate everyone's time. I hear all your statements. There will be, the minutes will be put on our website and this video as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Understanding why we feel like you're killing us, literally.
Okay.
By 1,000 cuts.
Stop it.
Senior citizens not being hit with the fee, that would be nice.
Okay.